Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We all know that there's a civil war going on in the SNP, various factions, arguing over different aspects, but it's on many fronts as well. Well, opposition parties often have shadow cabinets, but within the SNP there is also a shadow cabinet, a cabinet in waiting. Kate Forbes has built a power base and surrounded herself with the various spokesmen for the departments needed, such as health, education, and so forth. This is sitting there, waiting, ready to pounce, ready for day one action. And that day may be coming very soon. She's recently spoke out against Humza Yousaf, and now she's done so again, this latest salvo being over tax cuts. She's positioning herself like chess pieces on a board, ready to make a leadership challenge, and I think this time she'll win. We'll take a look at this article to see what she is saying and to sort of think about the chances of a leadership challenge coming soon. I think it must be in the air. Even the backbenchers are fed up with Humza Yousaf and his series of fails. Here goes. So here's the headline: Humza Yousaf slammed by Kate Forbes over proposed tax hikes as the civil war goes on. It says one, but I think that's just poor journalism. The First Minister has been urged not to penalise Scots in an attempt to hit Scottish Government net zero targets as he ponders council tax and income tax rises. Now, of course, net zero is a lie, it's a myth, it's impossible, and it's just been designed to control the masses. It's got nothing to do with reality. Anyway, Humza Yousaf has been blasted by his former leadership rival for proposing tax rises to achieve ambitious goals instead of focusing on growth. Kate Forbes was narrowly defeated in the contest to replace Nicola Sturgeon by 52% to 48%. And of course, it was such a close thing that she's building this power base behind her, because she knows that, especially in the backbenchers, the vote to replace Humza Yousaf is growing. The call to replace him is growing, because these backbenchers are sitting there looking at him, and they realise every time he opens his mouth, they're losing votes. Some of them will lose their seats because of him. That's no bad thing. But in the minds of these backbenchers, it's a matter of survival. They want someone who's not going to cost them votes, and they're looking increasingly, of course, to Kate Forbes. So I think there will be a leadership challenge fairly soon. Anyway, she dramatically headed back to the backbenches following the race after reportedly turning down the role of Rural Affairs Secretary after she served in the finance brief for 2 years, because of course it was a massive demotion and she did have self-respect. Also the fact that if she went into the cabinet, she'd have to toe the party line and agree with everything he's saying. And she felt that she was not able to do that because she disagreed with him on so many things. Anyway, she was also rumoured to be forming her own shadow government with disillusioned Nat MSPs, although she denies this, but of course she does. But the rumours still persist, and she's seen there in the darker, dingier recesses of Holyrood, forming a little cabal in whispered briefings and things like that. So these rumours, there seems to be something to them. Anyway, she's now urged the First Minister to U-turn on plans to hike up taxes for Scots even more, warning him that they would damage growth and risk shrink the number of taxpayers. Again, laugh a curve. And also, as you put the tax rates up, money is mobile, and there is nothing stopping these guys moving their money south of the border. Opening a company, dropping it in there, whatever. Not there, they pay the tax at a lower rate to the UK government, not to the Scots government. And so all of a sudden, the Scottish tax man or the Scottish tax income is a lot lower. And he'll be sitting there scratching his head and wondering why, because he is a moron and doesn't understand these things. Anyway, the Scottish Government has warned that tough decisions will need to be made to fill the £1 billion budget black hole that they have created with their constant harping on about rubbish ideas. Independence, for example, millions upon millions spent on that. £8 million a month spent on spin doctors in the NHS, for example. There are easy ways to save this billion without putting your taxes up. Stop wanking it away on shit. Anyway, despite income tax rates being increased already in April, ministers are consulting on whether to hike it up even more. Mr. Yousaf himself has backed a new band. Not that kind of band, not a quartet. A new tax band. That's what they need to put in there. Tax band. Anyway, This would be making richer Scots pay even more tax than those south of the border, meaning at that moment the richer Scots will take their money and run. Oh dear, he's such a moron, isn't he? Such an idiot. Anyway, his SNP executive has already launched a consultation on increasing council tax bills for thousands of homeowners across the country. It could lead to a 22.5% rise for those living in larger homes. And if he thinks he's going to get away with that, he'll have another think coming. Ms Forbes also made the point that Scots should not be the ones hit in the pocket through new environmental schemes like the low emission zone in Glasgow and forcing householders to buy expensive heat pumps to replace gas boilers. Number one, those heat pumps are rubbish. They don't work. The Scottish weather is so ill-suited to them. Secondly, unless the government are actually going to pay for it in full and pay the ongoing running costs, the uplifted running costs on running them, it's a non-starter. And also the low emission zone, also a lie, because they're doing it on age of car, not on output of car, not the emissions. And therefore it is basically designed to punish people for being poor. Again, very progressive in their tax, aren't they? She said it would be dreadfully unfair for hard-pressed workers to pay for new boilers and new vehicles, and of course she's right. God, odd saying that, isn't it? She said the danger is, in the transition, the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. It was ever thus, though, my darling. She then took a dig at Mr Yousaf and his campaigning for higher taxes, as she wrote. There are some who think that raising taxes exponentially or complicating the system further will somehow get us out of the hole of difficult public finances. Nothing can be further from the truth, as proven by history and most expert analyses. She says, I don't advocate unfairly low rates of taxation either. We have a moral duty to support progressive forms of taxation, whereby the rich pay more and the poorer pay less. But I do know that raising taxes exponentially high stymies economic growth, shrinks the number of taxpayers, and altogether results in less public finance. It is short-termist when we need a long-term vision. It might fill a few potholes next year, but it fails to recognise we need to build entirely new roads to net zero. Oh dear, she's fallen into the net zero trap as well. Load of shit. But she's right about the taxes. If you start raising taxes, you actually reduce your income because people become more able, should we say, more driven to become tax efficient or to take actions that limit the amount of tax they pay. Like, for example, paying money into a south of the border business and things like that. And it's easy enough to do. Known to be popular with businesses due to her role as the finance secretary, she warned that the government should be pushing for growth instead of penalising organisations. She said, by maximising the opportunities for our economy to grow and prosper, we'll see more private funding invested and more public funding available to meet our net zero targets. This is the time for Scotland to truly become a net zero capital of the world, led by Aberdeen and the North East, which has all the talent, infrastructure and expertise required. And what are you going to do about the oil industry? You can't stop it. It's going to be 100 years before you even approach stopping oil until you get a viable option of something else. Oil isn't just about cars. Oil is so much more, and there is nothing else at the moment except oil. We run our world on an organic slime, effectively, but no one else has come up with a viable alternative. Anyway, she's right about that. You can't tax your way out of debt, and you can't complicate things to achieve a target which is unachievable, effectively. This net zero, which we all know is a myth. It's impossible. Our very existence is not net zero. The only way you get a net zero planet is if you kill everything on it. But I'm sure she doesn't mean that. Even the SNP aren't that stupid, I think. Anyway, I shall stop there and come up. So at least Kate Forbes gets it. She understands taxation isn't the answer. She understands that you can't push taxes up indefinitely. She's mad if she thinks about net zero, but then this is the SNP and they are filled with weird thoughts, aren't they? But she is at least, she is at least one of the more intelligent members of the SNP. When you look at the things she's done in her education, she is undoubtedly intelligent, which makes you wonder why she follows such mad policies. But even so, it would be good to see her launch a campaign against Humza Yousaf, to see this civil war sort of turn into a hot war rather than this sort of cold manoeuvrings, on a board Let's see. I want to see tanks on the lawn, effectively, within this. And I think it will come soon. I think there will be an action. There will be a point, and it will turn into a direct challenge to his leadership. And I think at that point she'll step in. And I think she is destined, ultimately, to become the leader of that particular party. And who can blame them for wanting a change? Because the one they got now is an utter moron. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, it ain't long and they'll be gone. Bye.